Welcome to this edition of Trading Bits and Bytes. I'm Susan Littlefield, and Darin Fessler is joining us today with Lakefront Futures. Lots of things happening, as we know, this week in the markets, whether it was trade talk with China, with Japan. We know that the UN folks are all meeting, and then Minneapolis Wheat. That's kind of a quiet sleeper market, kind of grabbed hold early in the week and was a leading factor. So we're going to dive into all that's been happening within the trade. And Darin, thanks so much for joining us. Let's first start talk. It's trade, and it looks like trade's going to be a big focus in the coming weeks.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we have some seasonal lows that are approaching in this market as far as the corn and the beans. I think you've probably already seen some bottoming happening in that spring wheat market, as you had mentioned. I mean, that market is... we're dealing with some customers up there that are dealing with some of the worst harvest conditions they've ever had. And there will be a lot of fields in North Dakota that will be abandoned. They will more likely just burn those fields with the quality issues and more rains along the way. So it's not a good situation there, and it looks like the funds that are still short this market haven't really done a whole lot of short covering just yet, but that could add fuel to fire. Not only the wheat market, which is kind of a sleeper market when we talk spring, it could add another premium to the corn and the bean markets as we approach those seasonal lows.
And that was interesting how that all kind of entangles amongst themselves, because like you said, wheat is not one we usually have a big focus on, but it's definitely having a factor this week.
It really is. I mean, we've had this nice run right off that, basically the $5 lows. We touched on the East Minneapolis. We've touched a little bit below that $5 mark. And, you know, maybe you continue up towards that $6 mark. Who knows where it would go if the funds really start short covering here. But there are significant issues there. Not only that, if you go on the other side of the world, Australia is starting to get super dry as well, too. So, and you will flip back to the North America, you got Canada potentially getting some more snow, more rain. So not only the spring wheat market here in the United States, there's other issues in other parts of the globe as far as this wheat market is concerned. We still have pretty decent sales year over year on wheat in general. So it's not necessarily a yield issue when it comes to wheat right now. It is a quality issue, and that's what the market's looking for. We need some quality wheat up there.
And we've got harvest pressure coming in that we don't know what this corn and bean crop is going to be like, as combines in some areas just really getting in the fields.
Yeah, a lot of the harvest results that I've been getting in from clients across the United States right now is beans are at least 10% off. I'm not saying that beans in certain areas aren't better than last year, but that will probably not be the general case. Corn's going to be the same way. Still good potential in areas. Western Iowa, for one, I think is going to have very good corn. But the general theme going on, what it was last year, we know that. But we start taking a look at the technicals. You know, if we can start holding that Dees corn at 365, we have what's called an inverse head and shoulders, and which would really be a really positive and bullish signal for this corn market as we approach those seasonal lows, which you typically are around that October 1st, October 2nd time frame.
So how much pressure could we see? I mean, this is looking into the future, and you're in your wishing bowl, shall we say, but how much of an influence could we see if these numbers come in a lot lower than what USDA is expected, what you're hearing in trade talk? What could we see happen to corn and beans?
Right now on the December chart, we still have a gap at basically 392, 393. I think that is a target for this market in case, you know, let's say we do get some rains, we do get some early snows, or in general it just remains wet that we can't get out there and get this crop done on time, or what we usually do, well, then we have to start worrying about what's the stock quality. Can the corn that's even out there, can it hold on long enough to get the combines out there? Because a lot of this crop, just on Monday's crop progress numbers, a lot of this crop is a long ways from maturity. Some of the worst maturity numbers I've seen in quite some time if we compare that to the 5-year average. So how high can it go? I guess that's anyone's guess at this point, but funds right now are short as of last Friday, about 175,000 contracts. So bears here, you know, probably looking at, okay, how slow is this harvest going to go? We have seasonals coming up here. We have a bullish technical signal. It kind of leads a little bit of caution to me if I was pretty short this market right now, and probably a good thing for the producer who has been hanging on to their crop.
And let's just throw in the fact that there's trade talks going on and things happening with Japan, with China. It's all being kind of mashed in together.
It really is. I mean, if we flip on the bean side, there is, who knows? Trump said today that he would like to get something done rather sooner than later. Who knows if that will happen? We have the South American dryness going on. We have bean yields that we have a really, really high implied pod weight, which would be an outlier normally. But a lot of the clients have been saying, my beans are 10, 15 bushel behind last year. I think that at the end of the day, these bean yields probably come down. I've been saying this all with all of our interviews together, that these bean yields probably come down in time. But we look at earlier on this year, we were looking at 900 million bushel carryout. Now we could be under 500 million at the end of the day. So these are all positive things. If we can get through some of these larger macro environment issues, I think they can run.
All right, sounds good. Darin Fessler has been joining us. Lots of things to think about. Keep that line of communication open with your commodity broker. That's this week's Trading Bits and Bytes. I'm Susan Littlefield.